Go. Right. This is the one slide we will be working with. So we're going to understand the entire aspect, and it's going to be an expansion of what I was talking about last week. So it's a continuation of the benefits of living a spiritual life, which we're taking all the nuts and bolts of what it means to be spiritually inclined and lining it up. So what is important to understand about this Samkhya philosophy outside of just this chart? The most important thing to understand about Samkhya philosophy is that in the Vedantic philosophies, in all spiritual philosophies, that they are the monotheists, or they believe in a concept of a God. Now, this is really, really important to get this. Samkhya philosophy starts from the basis where there is no inclusion of a God. Okay? It starts from a theistic point of view. So even an atheist can agree with the concepts that are laid out in this. Now, such is the power of this information here that's in Samkhya. Samkhya is got two definitions to the word. Samkhya, which could also mean in Sanskrit numbering system, as you see here, where it lists out the number of elements that are which are associated with which guna. Now, the other meaning for the word Samkhya is right knowledge. It means the right perception. Okay, so how can we start from somewhere that doesn't include God and expect it to be right knowledge? This is where we really have to break down the nuts and bolts of exactly where Samkhya philosophy is coming from. Samkhya philosophy identifies two realms to be absolute within their own rights, which is one, which is Purusha, spirit, and the reality of what it means to be spirit, what it means to be consciousness. And the other one is Prakriti, nature, the mundane, the ever-changing world, the ever-changing perception of objects in the world. Now, again, how do these two come together, and where do you find God in this balance? So Samkhya philosophy, in the beginning, as in its explanation, starts off with the premise of that there is no God to adhere to embrace to the philosophy. However, what it does do is recognize energies, and in the ultimatum of expression of energies, the energies must be responsible from coming from some form of intelligence, some flow of intelligence. And how do these two levels of intelligence unify to bring about life? How do they bring about the mind, the body, soul connection? So in accepting the ideas of the two realities, one being spiritual, what is the ultimate of the spiritual reality, and what is the ultimate of the Prakriti reality? Now, the essence of what it all leads to, it leads down to an idea of oneness. So that oneness is now considered supreme intelligence. That supreme intelligence that binds both matter and spirit together to become one. So it gives credit to the physical world being ever eternal, ever changing, ever flowing. And it gives credit to the spiritual as being ever still, ever dynamic, ever whole. And how do these two aspects, how do these two energies come together to actually create, to actually bond, to actually bring into existence what it is you perceive as life. So within the conscious aspect of Prakriti, how does Prakriti bond with your spirit? And this is exactly the science of Samkhya. So in the fullness of Samkhya, Samkhya then stands to support all the other philosophies without debate, without being owned by. So even the philosophy of Brahman, the philosophy of Krishna, okay, let's separate them two aspects in terms of what I just said. Brahman in Vedic philosophy is understood as the whole, as the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, everything just being in one. When they speak of the avatar Krishna, this is where you're bringing that essence and ideology of a Godhead to a personal, attributed individual. So you're saying you're aligning your inner perceptions of a Godhead to be personal. So in other words, you reach to a place where you say to yourself, well, when they say God made me in his image, what is that image that God holds? God must have an image of his own for us to have an image. On a personal level, God must have his own characteristics, his own personality, they're going to be wide, they're going to be vast. They're not going to be, we're not going to be able to understand them or comprehend them. But because we don't understand or comprehend the qualities, it doesn't mean to say that we should deny them. So in the acceptance of them, that we are made in some form of image, that image must belong to someone, something, some energy. So this is where that deepness of relationship with the idea of Godhead has now become on a personal level rather than just being everywhere and anywhere. Now, both of them are right. You can either be Brahmanical in your worship or you can be personal in your worship. Both of them are accepted. Now, coming back to Samkhya, the grounds of what these two aspects of connotation of union with a Godhead, whether it be just oblivious, whether it be just the all and external, the everlasting humming silence, or the everlasting or the individual aspect of a personal God, Samkhya is actually the philosophy that keeps the whole infrastructure supported. So it actually starts from a theistic level, so people can understand from a very, very basic level, even without any ideology of Godhead, and how to apply that concept of Godhead in their journey to find their inner process of liberation, that inner process of self-realization. Now, in that idea of self-realization, the ultimate realization is to know that you are Brahman, or you are Krishna, you are the same, you are Radha, you are exactly the same of the qualities in exactly what the Brahmanic or the Vedantic aspect teaches about the Godhead. You are exactly the same. Where Samkhya comes in is that it recognizes you as the individual. It doesn't recognize as, the all, the one. So Samkhya allows you to be that individual, that godlike person, to rise to your Godhead position in your reality. How do you get your reality to work for you in a way that you feel like the Godhead? Now, this is very important because the inner witness in you wants you to experience the joy that it feels in every moment. Now, unknown to you, the only reason why you're not enjoying what the inner witness is enjoying is because of what the ego is focused on. What is the ego focused on? The ego is focused on external energies that are at play and trying to bring these energies into a balance that suits it in the given time. Whereas if you are looking at it from the inner witness, there is no combination of the energies that are displeasing to you. So within that, when you're operating from the inner space, you are more of a magnet to these energies to align to, if you want to call it, in a more sattvic state, because you haven't let the ego run out there and take claim of how the world runs. You haven't let the ego run out there to take claim of how emotions run in other people. Your ego hasn't run out there to take claim of trying to own people or try to own situations, things. You're not out there trying to be the possessor of things. Rather than being the enjoyer of the experience, you try to claim the experience. You try to control the experience. And this is where it all goes wrong. Because most of the times when you're trying to control the experience, it's not coming from a detached, selfless place where you're flowing with the flow and the ebb of life. Your ego is actually sticking some form of command in there to go, hold on, wait a minute, I want this for turn out my way. I want it for turn out how me see this. Or so understanding Samkhya at the core of it is to understand how all energies flow within you, around you, and how to effectively influence the energies to work in your behalf. So like I said, there's that thin line between love and hate. There's that thin line between courage and pride. There's that thin line between force and power. That force is the force that drives you down. That force is that holds you to your habits, to your discernment, to your judgmental self. It's the energy of force. What you want is you want an energy of power residing in you. We've gone through the processes of understanding the chakras, how to elevate from the baseline state, from the root chakra, to have some sense of balance, stillness in the sacral chakra, how to bring up that energy of balance and stillness to the solar plexus chakra for it to inflame and give you energy to rise to your higher proportionate of intellect and understanding of self, life, and all these things. Now, again, understanding Samkhya is going to further help you even more. It's going to further help you even deeper. So let's look at this image that we've got on the screen. You see where it says Purusha, soul, consciousness, like I said last week, that is the sum total of who you are. You are spirit. You are energy. You are light. You are consciousness. There's nothing else to your makeup, and this thing is eternal. There's something in you. If you sit back and just think for a bit, there's a part of you that's been exactly the same all the way to your earliest memory, regardless of how old you are. There's a part of you. If you just stop and think for a minute, there's a part of you that's just not changed. It's just been the witness to all of your experiences. That part is that's the closest thing you're going to get to reflecting on what your Purusha consciousness spirit is ever eternal. It's the same. It's that childlike, natural spirit that sits quietly in the background of all that has happened for your whole entire lifetime. It hasn't even aged. Your body has aged. Your senses have aged. There's many aspects of you that has aged, but there is a part of you that has stayed timeless right through your entire journey. And that is the seat of where your consciousness resides. So what is happening here from the screen, we can see. Prakriti comes into play the minute consciousness wants to have a go at being in the mundane realm. So the mundane realm, In coming into play with the mundane realm, the first thing that comes into play, for instance, you could say, right, how does this go? What flows? How does it start to flow from an energetic point of view? Simply from an energetic point of view. And as you can see here, ahamkar, self-identity, these things are unique to your characteristics, unique to your personality. There's nobody like you. There's nobody that, you know, these things, regardless of whether your genre, gender, whether you're masculine or feminine, your personality and your characteristics are timeless. They're yours, okay? And that idea of ahamkar, ego, self-identity, these are when it's almost like this is the magnet that attracts the three gunas into play. These are the three gunas is Prakriti. There's no other element. There's no, it's, you know, Prakriti doesn't include the three gunas and something else and something else. The only thing that it pertains in its whole entire core are the three gunas. What is responsible for the three gunas movement, interaction, entwining? Prana. What is the energy that ties the three gunas to your consciousness and make things appear in your reality? Prana. Prana is the life force energy that brings about all of these different aspects of your entire being. So now, souls, there are innumerable souls. Don't even watch about the human soul. Animal have soul too. Some people don't like to think that, but they have life. They know when they're frightened. They know when they're scared. They know when to run in fear. They know how to, you understand, there's certain characteristics and personalities within animals that you can directly say they're a living soul. They have some energy. Now, that soul hasn't risen to a level of consciousness where it can act outside of its preordained being. No. So what does that say? That soul in the animal is evolving to be more than what it is. We as souls, and I'm not going to be saying that we've gone through the animal kingdom to become humans. However, we can become animal-like in our nature. We can become ignorant. We can bark like dog. When I said, no, this bark have empty barrel and all these things, we can associate our ignorance to being like animal. Why? Oh, you act so doggish, man. What that could mean? That could mean to how you treat a girl. That could mean how you treat others. That could mean your state of ignorance and your greed, you know. And these are things that we can see that are directly traits of animals, just like how dogs behave when they have no care for nothing else but for them selfish. You understand? Especially wild dogs. So, and when they say don't lick wild dog in the face because they will turn around and bite you, it's because they're moving without no appreciation. They move, and there's very much people like that. So, in this way, the human doing has to evolve to the human being, and in that evolution, in that space of evolution, how do you retract from behaving animalistic? How do you retract from behaving out of sync with the spirit that you are? Because the spirit is actually looking for itself to recognize itself as the God within, as the God being. And instead of doing it internally, we've got caught up in a process of doing it externally and looking for the external world to verify that we are God, when it will never do that. But that's the trap. So Samkhya is the way of understanding how the trap is actually set. And through Samkhya, through the basics of understanding the elements, how they play, what they're used for, we can now be more in tune with our senses. We can be more aware of our senses and use them for gathering the right type of information that's going to lead to an awakening inside, to that path of self-realization. Because you see, under that line there where it says Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, Once you fall into that trap, it's hell to actually get back. This is when you're trapped in a world of just bodily existence, and you lose the whole entire sensing that you are not actually the body. Anything that the body go through, you feel say you are the body. Anything. So you make more claim to the body-mind ideology of who you are rather than spirit. And it's really important to understand and differentiate what is spirit, what is the path that leads me to feeling spirit, feeling consciousness, feeling Purusha love, feeling connectivity back to the Godhead within, which is the Godhead of all, which is the same supreme intelligence that is actually operating and controlling both Purusha and Prakriti. So let's see what happens once we involve our light energy with the three gunas. What happens? Like I said, in the animal kingdom, you have animals that doesn't have ears, like for instance, bees. You have animals that doesn't have certain senses that we have as a fully grown species, then if you want to call it that, in terms of human being, a being that can now transcend outside of the three realms. All other animals, they can't even sit down and fathom what the three realms are. They're just caught up in that immediate coding. So that process of decoding, that process of letting go is really understanding the nuts and bolts of understanding where and how our senses, our consciousness, and how our attention to who we actually think we are is. So, as we see here, this when I said Samkhya could actually mean the idea of the numbering system. This is where it's listed the elements that create you, and in this list there are 25 elements. Actually, there is a let's see. There's actually one element that's missing from this chart. That one element that is missing is time. Time is actually an element. So when you come outside of time, you're in a new realm. So once you're in time, what time zone are you working with? Sometimes you say, boy, the day I'm on fasting, I never know what happened today. You're moving on a slow time band. If you're moving quick and you're moving up in a sattvic space, you can't wait for things to happen. You can't wait. You're on the edge. Boy, I can't wait for this to unfold. You're working on a different time vibration, even though time is ticking along for everybody else in the 24 hour. But your time perception of how life is flowing is really down to your engagement with the three gunas and your ability for consciousness to process what's happening. I.e., if you're in that space where you think time is moving too fast, then it means you're moving too slow. It means that you're caught lower on the tamasic side of things, which means that your senses are overloaded with information and you're there processing information, processing, and losing track of time. Whereas you need to retract from the senses. You need to retract from information intake. You need to retract and start to flow a little bit more effortlessly with life, because most of this information intake is just to tie you up, whether it's social media news, whether it's gossip, whether it's thinking about other people's circumstances and other people's situation, maybe it's thinking of negative scenarios. They all take up time. But outside of they taking up time, they're taking up a certain aspect of time for you to actually vibrate on a certain level. They're actually slowing down your time. Very important to understand. So in the listing of the 25 elements, like I said, the only thing that's here missing is time, but which would make it 26. But let's go through the elements. We can see here mind is an element on its own. Mind is an element. So it's showing you clearly that you are not the mind. Most times you're caught up in what's going on in the mind. Know this, that the three gunas are always playing. Know that there's always, there's going to be always dark energy, light energy, good energy, mixed energy. It's for you to now have a program of discernment to detach from the noise that's going on in the mind. You have to know how to let go of noise pollution that is happening in the mind because of the information that's been gathered by the 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of actions. Now, because we're an evolved being to the state where we can now have these organs of perceptions and organs of actions and subtle organs of perceptions. And we have to understand, how are they actually working? So if you can see here, the 5 sense organs, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin, the tongue, these are all listed in the Sattvic range. So also is the hands, the feet, speech, elimination, procreation. These are all in the Sattvic column because in their pure state, they do pure things. They're good. They're actually there to facilitate your potential in life. These intrinsic ideas of developed concepts of being come into play on a pure ideology. So they are pure. So for instance, when we say omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, these aspects are also pure. Omniscient means the ability to sense, for eyes, ears, nose, skin, touch, all of these things, to have them all operative at all times. So, you know, the divine being has this feature where this is just a natural given in its grandeur, and they are pure vehicles of information carriers. So now we can see there's a line that is right pointing at Sattvic to Tamasic. Now, in the Tamasic side, we have sound, we have touch, we have form, we have taste, we have smell. Now, why would these things be considered as Tamasic? Because these are the things that tie our consciousness up into more karmic activities, especially when we have no idea of what they can, what effect they can play on in our ignorance. There's a saying, what's that saying? Don't make a decision until you really think about what it is that you're actually engaging yourself into. Some people, yeah man, I go a party and sometimes they end up being the worst party they've ever gone to. Yeah man, me I go follow you, go down very. Something inside is telling you down, go, and you end up going and then boy, what a weird thing turn out. Yeah? Sound. Unless it's pure sound, it can put you into a space. Sound is very easily a very enticing, alluring thing. Most of the times we live to be credited, to be boosted, to be adorned by others. And when we hear words of flattery, you know, it boosts a part of our ego that cuts us away from our spiritual essence of who we are. We start to take claim. We start to draw towards that affirmation of greatness in terms of idea of fame, idea of beauty, all of these things that harden our concept of being the body that we're not. Touch. Boy, it feel nice. Boy, it feel nice. Feel hug up with my missus at night time. I love the feeling. But listen, I'm even guilty of it. Man, I like lie down when I am to bed, you know. But again, It's something that is some creature comfort that makes you feel more connected on a physical plane when you're not physical. So that ideology of warming into, locking into that space of touch, sensation, all of these things, they're bringing more delusion to an idea of being that you're not. Form again, shapes, objects. These things can again lure your mind into a space of understanding that you're now chasing something external. You're now chasing something that is again not going to lead you to a path of realization. You see a beautiful girl, you see a beautiful man, you see a beautiful something that's it'd be nice to have that. Oh yeah, maybe I like that. That's a lovely ornament to put up in the front room. That's you're attached to things. Some next minute you're always full of clutter, you're always full of things where just the other day, every I don't know, I think it must be every month I'm on the phone downloading and backing up pictures, of experiences. Memory, my phone get clogged up. Full too much of things in the phone, and I said to myself, nah, I need to empty out the phone so I can gather more. And then one day I'm looking back and I'm getting tied up. I'm remembering the emotional content of when I took the picture. Everything is all earthbound. It's all earthbound. It's remembering experiences that are pertaining to your earth-like experience, not your spiritual experience. So again, taste. Another thing. Why I love the taste of this. I love the taste of that. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in teaching Arjuna had this conversation with someone from the group. Absolutely lovely conversation in the week. It was so heart-rendering, so uplifting. Taste. On a spiritual level, when I say to change your lust from a mundane one to a spiritual one, in Bhagavad Gita, there's a saying in chapter 7, of taste, I am water. That is so powerful. That is so profound in its entirety of understanding. What does water taste like? Water not taste like nothing, especially if you distill the water and you clean up the water and when you taste the water, you go, why the best drink with the water tastes good. This time the water don't taste of nothing. And that nothing, that emptiness in the water is actually the thing that you're searching for, that emptiness, that stillness in the water, the pureness in the water, that don't taste like nothing. But yet that nothingness can make you feel good, that can make you vibrate, align with the goodness of what that water is bringing. That would taste like nothing. The aspect of where I'm saying Prakriti represents itself, again, in full alignment with Purusha on the top end of the spectrum in terms of what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, what makes them operate, what is the electric energy that binds them together, on how, where can you find this sweetness? Where can you find the taste? Through sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. How do you use these tools? How do you use these functionalities within yourself to vibrate and bring it right back over to the sattvic energy? So it's really paying attention to how you use sound, to how you listen to sound. What are you listening to? You have to be very careful to make sure you filter that, to make sure that sound is sattvic, to make sure that sound is pleasant, to make sure that sound is harmonious, to make sure that sound is enriching your idea of being, because all that you're aiming and you're claiming and you're trying to achieve and become, you are actually already it. And it's the imbalance of the three gunas that are playing in your mind that's stopping you from actually seeing the full potential that you are. Because you're searching too hard through using the energies of the three gunas, the energies of Prakriti, the energies of, Sattva, Raja, Guna, they're all playing. And your mind's there, you're there. Remember, the most important thing to remember that the mind is not there to actually work things out. So when you did that, try bust your mind, use it for interject and to bring into play the flow, you're using the wrong tool. You're using the wrong tool. The mind is only there to observe what is happening through the five sense organs, through the five action organs of action, and also to monitor with intellect, to keep your attention on sound, touch, form, taste, and smell in a vibratory alignment with sattva. With this alignment, you can then start to appreciate intellect. You can then start to sense consciousness. Then you can start to sense the inner self. So, without further, my boy, I'm glad to see Dr. Mark coming in there now. Look, pandemic, look good, my brother. So, without further ado, I am going to hand over to, because I did ask him to come in and explain a concept of Samkhya, so you can all understand it from an even deeper level, because what I've been doing over the weeks is installing a practical level of how Samkhya comes together. And I'm glad I've done it through segments, through make you understand the chakras, through make you understand the gunas at play, know what Atma is, what the super soul is, what the inner witness is, and how do you now combine them and understand the map, understand the territory. It has been a beautiful, beautiful time in spending this time with you all. And there's so much more to say. I'm going to come back in even after Dr. Mark speaks, just to tie it all up and finish it. But, brother, are you there?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm here. Wow.
Please come in. Please take over.
Let me first say greetings to listeners, all the Zoom attendees, and all the supporters that's been supporting your Zoom for weeks, months, and now you've come to the last one. I heard. I'm glad I'm here today, and I heard the stuff you're saying. I'm here, to be honest with you, I'm going to confess. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing it and I'm going in and out of trance, because I'm hearing Tarun breaking it down, and I'm drifting in and out of different, lessons I've had and teachings and experiences, and it's a head spinner. Now there's this to it. I want to come in like this. So you use the word territory, you use the word map and stuff like that. And for many listeners, many attendees, they're thinking, well, it's got to be simpler than this. When I was growing up back home, wherever they're from, I asked certain questions about the Bible, and I was told, that you're not supposed to know that, you're not supposed to know. If the reason that they don't have the answer is because, you're not supposed to know. And at the age of even 12, I rejected that. And so here we're hearing bits and pieces of this vast amount of information about how we collect information through the senses and how we process these bits of information in our inner being. And how among all this territory and all these forces and all these different senses and sense objects and stuff and gunas, modes and stuff, you're in the mix of all of that as the soul. And then you have God's present as the super soul. And it's a whole heap of stuff for people to take on. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of you are listening and saying, so do we have to memorize this? And when we're in meditation, do we have to know any of this? And when we walk down the road and when we're showing love and, all these different ways we interact in the world, do we need to know all this? Because, for me, I'm very cold when it comes to why I'm doing anything. Why you have to know any of this? You need to ask yourself. You need to come up with your doubts. You need to question this. Why you need to know any of this anyway? You accept that your soul, that's part and parcel of God, a spark of the Most High. Whatever way you perceive him, you're a spark of that. No one can take that from you. Why do you need to know all this stuff? Like your false ego and the senses and the sense objects and the ones that's working senses and the ones that's knowledge acquiring senses. What's the need for all this? And when we say Samkhya is the study of, the differentiation between spirit and matter. Why do you need to know that? Because you need to ask these questions. Because if you don't, then it's called niyamagraha. Niyamagraha meaning following just for the sake of following. What is following the fast? What is following some prohibitions that you shouldn't eat meat? You shouldn't eat starchy foods, prohibitions or regulations which says you should get up at this time and perform these acts and do these prayers, get down on your knees and pray and these type of things. And niyamagraha is a Sanskrit word which means doing for the sake of doing. It means you don't have an understanding about it. And mostly my experience among my own people, even till today, is that they do many things for the sake of doing because they were told that that's what they should do. And that didn't work for me from a very tender age. And I think that was, if I may, that was my great fortune. And I believe if you're on this Zoom and you've asked these questions and your curiosities and your suspicion and your inquiry, and as Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, that many people come to me for different reasons, but those who come to me for wisdom, out of curiosity, we're just searching to know the absolute truth, and they're very blessed. That's in the mode of goodness. As he was talking about the modes, that's in the mode of goodness. And those who come because they're broke and they just want to sort out their rent and they got the whole mortgage and the problem and the baby father thief the money. And so they need redemption. And they come out of either they need to get financial security and they want God to help them. That's in the mode of passion. And if you come because you want to use God, because you want to get stuff and you want to get money and you get power, you're not interested in God really. You just want to use stuff so you can, use to overpower people, other people, and even cause harm and become a treacherous leader or something like that. Then it becomes in the mode of ignorance. But again, the question, why do you need to know all this? This is a real serious, compelling question. And I think it's one that I need you to keep agitating your mind with it. Why? Because Tarun spent weeks going through bits until now he's got the map. This is the territory. So here's why you need to know all this. If you have people running a race or just in a life where life is about learning, life is about experiences, life is a classroom, life is a university. What we spirit souls in a human body having a human experience, we're spirit souls having a material experience. We hear this kind of talk. And so if the truth is that we're spirit, we're a divine spark of something far greater than everything, then it is your business. It is your divine right. It is your spiritual, the word is responsibility. Your material responsibility is another thing. And as a child, you think the whole world is one big merry-go-round. So it's not important to know if you got spirit inside you. It's not that important. The whole world is just a playground to a child. And time passes fast. And so this is why you need to question these things and ask, so why do I need to know this? Because you're not an animal running around that when it's time to wee, you lift your hind leg and just follow nature's dictates and do that. You've been given a whole different set of faculties, of facilities, you have all these options. You can do good, you can do evil. A dog or an animal can't do good or do evil. It's following the dictates of nature. So with humans, we have this power given to us. And you have to discover that first you have a power. Because before you do that, you're just like an animal. You are following the dictates of nature, just like an animal. And so the Vedas calls these kind of creatures where you're a human being, but you're living like an animal. He says that one of the first symptoms of such people is anamoy. Anamoy means just the symptom of eating to live. And we have four main ways that we survive and live in, and four, they call them symptoms of life, qualities you see in all forms of life, even microbes. And these four qualities these four symptoms of life is that wherever there's life, there is the effort, the energy spent to survive, to live. We want to live, we want to survive. And to do that, we protect. So we're always ready to do defense. And eating is also another essential. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defense, which I mentioned. And all living beings do this. But we are superior to this type of behavior in that we have all this stuff that Tarun just explained. When you taste something, smell something, hear something, see something, if you're an animal, you're going to leave your mind and all the networks of what Tarun described. If you're in a mode of ignorance, you respond as such. Your mode of passion, you respond as such. And you can be led by these things because nature has a way of, when it's dark and when it's gloomy, you will feel gloomy. You will feel miserable. And so you've been led. The word guna means rope. And it's described that like a rope, these ropes of qualities, gunas, good, passion, and ignorance, lassoing. If you consider a crowded street like Oxford Street, and you see people walking down the street, they're not walking down Oxford Street in a state of meditation, in a state of peace, or in a state of anything divine. They're walking down Oxford Street. And of course, there may well be people that's walking down like that, like Tarun or many of the listeners on the Zoom today. But generally, they're walking down Oxford Street, either having their eyes being lassoed by the guna, which is ignorance, passion, or goodness, and it will drag their attention to a shop window, to something that seduces them to say, I like that, or I don't like that, or to a man or a woman across the road, or to something. And if it's not that, it's your ears that's dragged you to hear something. What's that? Oh, that's the construction word, noise over there. What's that? Oh, that's some man over there is a tramp making up noise. You're engaged all the time, but like a slave, unless you are conscious of what's going on, unless you're aware that the world is in the mind, unless you're aware that you are the owner of the whole thing, you sit on the throne of this body with all the senses and all this big complex stuff that Tarun's explained. You're in the middle of all of this territory as a king, sitting on the throne of the soul. The throne of the soul, you're sitting on that as the consciousness. And what happens when you don't know these things is that you then make your senses treat you like a slave. And it enslaves you in this body that you have no choice over what you really like. You think you do, but you've been dragged by your senses. And I heard Tarun say a couple of quotes from Gita. Even a wise man, if he focuses on any sense, whether it's the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, or the sense of touch, any one of them, what to speak of all five of them, any one of them can drag an individual, even a wise person, into a state of ignorance. And they could fall into the deepest quagmire, the pit of ignorance. And we've seen these stories where great men fall. We hear these great stories of the gods and Solomon and Samson and all these great warriors who they've fallen, and even those who study meditation and gone into the Himalayas with just a tinkling of the ankle bells of a beautiful woman, and the person's meditation was broken. Because the ankle bells indicate to that person it's a woman. It's ankle bells. The eyes are closed. Who's this woman? What does she look like? And so that's it. That person's gone. Their senses, one sense alone, have taken them completely away from their focal objective. And so we constantly have our minds bombarded by our senses. And if we're not aware that this is how it happens, if we're not aware of the matrix of how it happens, then you're just no more than an animal. And then I want to refer to the Garden of Eden, where Adam had the privilege of naming the animals, and he had to realize what he had in front of him. He realized his territory, realized he didn't have a mate. He didn't have, a companion. And so for Adam, that was displeasing, but his senses were fully active. He could see, hear, smell, taste, and none of them were turning him on, because even with nature, we need to have our senses feel like they're fulfilled. You need taste buds to have taste on them. You need ears to have sound in it. And in this way, we feel it's fine to plunder our senses with whatever comes to it. And then that's like an animal. But when Adam was in the Garden of Eden, he was expected to rise up and come out of that animal kingdom and make himself known to the kingdom that he was the Lord of that kingdom. The Lord had made him privileged to be like the Lord, like the God of this world, if you like, of this territory. I use the word God with no apologies, because some people are scared to use the word God. We submit to a Most High. We supplicate and surrender to a Most High. We're particles, and we cannot be anything more than the particles of the Most High. So we can't claim in any egotistical way to be that kind of God, as people say, you're claiming yourself to be God. So that's a little bit naive and childish. But because even if someone claims to be, it would just be ignorance that they made that claim. It's impossible. God is one without a second. But in that you are, an undeniable spark of that Most High, you are a godling. And as soon as we wake up and admit to that godlingness, then we will admit to being in a place where that godling has been placed in a territory which has all these different elements around it. And while it is in such a state, unless it starts to acknowledge what it's up against, just like sometimes we speak of racism, if you want to tackle racism, you've got to first of all know who your enemies are. You can't just be making friends with all your enemies, eating out your enemy's kitchen, eating out your enemy's hand middle, and think that you're making headway from getting from the type of enmity environment you're in. So this is where we find ourselves in the material world. It's a mundane world. It's not home. There's no philosophy in this world that says this world is home. None. And if any philosophy comes up like that, you know that's demonic. And there are demonic philosophies that says eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow may not come. Those type of axioms are based on demonic mentality and demonic philosophy. It means I don't need to respect love or express love to anyone. It's just dog eat dog. May the best man win. Open the gates and let's go for it. And who trod on who does do the best, because we don't have to bear witness to nobody. That is demonic. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow may not come. So that type of mentality have been pervasive, and it's permeated the minds of our people, especially, that we run around the world thinking that satisfaction and happiness comes from having a big gold chain, a big gold chaps, a big massive house in Beverly Hills, and 2, 3, or 4, 500 girls on your books. And so it's this, for this reason, that when you look at this map and see that you are a slave, if you are a spark of the Most High, but you found yourself meddling with nothing more than broken glass, nothing more than the sounds that come from whatever territory, wherever it comes from, and that delights your soul. And what comes to the eyes from a woman's breast or a naked body delights your soul. And all the tastes that fulfill, all the wines and stuff delight your soul. Then you've just downplayed your real status. You've just what I'm called sellout. In terms of the divinity in you and the divinity that you belong to, you just sell out. That you sell out. So to reclaim your godliness, reclaim your divinity, reclaim what you are, not what people tell you are. You're 6'1" and you're 5'2". You're black and you're brown, light skin and blue. It's none of the above. It hardly does anybody refer to anyone in the right type of divine approach. And that's why when we say namaste, that's why we use these words. It tends to remind you, you're not this body. I'm greeting the divinity within you. Namaste. And everything we do is to, because someone will hear, when I ask, why do you need to know this? And how do you go out in the world and bring all this stuff with you? What you do is you start to use these triggers. We're constantly applying triggers in our life because we're in an entrapment. You don't see these things that is described here, the soul being divine. The soul cannot really be ignorant. The soul cannot really be in Prakriti. The soul cannot really be egotistic. The soul cannot really be ignorant. The soul cannot really experience pain. All of these things are a lie. And all of these lies only happen with the help of these, gunas and tanmatras and the senses and sense objects. And the Most High created them. You didn't, and I didn't. So he made this plan for you to be in this entrapment. An entrapment of love, nonetheless, because as soon as you can make a decision that you want to reclaim your godliness, your divinity, your divine status, then you have to dash fire upon all of these things. That's really why you need to know. Really why, and I ask you why you need to know this. How are you going to dash fire upon your false ego when you know that it's time to shape up your false ego? You know what, Dr. Mark, you're too egotistic, and you need to shape up on your ego and go back to your proper identity, which has no ego at all. It's divine. Why does it need to be anything else? The fact that you're a doctor doesn't make you greater. Your spirit soul is greater than a doctor, is brighter than 10,000 suns. So why debase yourself by making yourself egotistic as a doctor? Or egotistic as whatever it is you say yourself are. You're a beautiful woman and your eyelashes flap. How you flap your eyelash, 10,000 man drop at your feet. And you get egotistic about that. And so we all have things that we can feel egotistic about. But this is the whole point. That's why you need to know this, that you can know that when you are betraying yourself, when you're degrading yourself, undermining your spirit, your divine self, you can know that one of these things in this territory just got you. So it's not that we don't find ourselves in a state of the mode of ignorance, but with knowledge, you know that it's a state of the mode of ignorance. And you know also that it's transferable. You can get out of it. You can transfer yourself from it. Someone who doesn't know that is called that they can't see, and they can't see that they can't see. They're blind and they can't see that they're blind. You understand me? So that's the difference with somebody who knows this. There are those who know this and they put this in their back pocket and sit on it. And they never do anything with this knowledge, just like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, how you use words. That's Samkhya. Now they're using Samkhya to make the most money. The richest people in the world are using definitely 100% Samkhya philosophy. You understand me? So when we learn these things, you realize that visualization doesn't take place in the eyeballs. They take place in the mind's eye. And so this map and territory actually outlines that you really are not in control. So there is a text in the Gita that refers to people, those who believe they are doers of activity, when these activities are carried out by exactly what Tarun has been talking about. It says these activities are carried out by the modes of nature, but one who thinks he's a doer of activity is a vimudha, is verily a fool. So, it's just a contemplation for you. You need to, in your quiet moments, think about how much you're really not in control. And that is the beginning of why you need to know this. Because if you're not really in control, then these forces are. And the only thing you're doing is desiring. That's the only thing that you can do. I fancy a cup of tea. And then it flashes in your mind where the tea is, and then you get up and go make the tea. And so this map you're looking at with all these elements and the gunas and the ego and the intellect and all of this stuff, the nose, the skin, the eye, the ear, the hands, the knowledge acquiring senses and the physical senses and all this stuff, you won't need to memorize it. But this is what you're going to have to really do if you want to wake up from the what you call the entrapment. Because I wouldn't like to know I'm walking and doing things and I'm not doing it knowing that I'm being dragged here. Arjuna asked Krishna, what is it, Krishna, that makes a man act even outside? He says, what is it that makes a man act even against his own will, Krishna? Even against his own will. I was like, what do you mean? He says, what is it that impels a man to act even against his own will? And I studied that because I wanted to know, that sound like somebody had done me something and I can't do them but nothing. That sound like somebody or some forces that's pushing me and inducing me to do things even against my own will. And Krishna answered him, Raja Guna, Arjuna, you know, Raja Guna Samudbhava, Raja Guna Samudbhava, you know, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Raja Guna Samudbhava. He says, it is the very guna known as lust, Rajagun, the one that's called Rajagun. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Rajas is the one that compels a man to act even against his own will, Raja. So this is what people call, it seems like, is described as the devil, some force that impels man to act, and woman, mankind, to act against his own will. And when they give these, now here we go. So instead of teaching, you know, a divine being about his real territory and how his divine rights and his powers and his capabilities and functionalities and what he can do with that to redeem and liberate himself, instead we get these kind of stories. You have one angel on your left shoulder and you have another angel on your right hand shoulder. What a load of coswallop. And when the lightning a flash, I gotta take picture. And when you hear thunder, I gotta play in drum roll. These are the type of, you know, slave kind of stories that we were told, slave mythologies. And so when we hear these things, we say things like, why do we have to know this? This sounds like a lot. Well, hear what it is. You are a divine being, and that is a lot. That is literally everything. And for you to reclaim that, you need to give back the Most High everything, all of it. He doesn't want the five senses with you. He doesn't want the five sense objects with you. He doesn't want the sound, touch, form, taste, or smell with you. He wants you alone, the naked soul. And to do that, you're going to have to slay the false ego, slay your attachment to all the things you bear witness that's more than God. That's why we're even here.
Amen.
We want to enjoy this and to prove to God that you have submitted, you supplicate yourself, you surrender to him. You say, you know what, Lord? I realize that the whole of the world of enjoyment of everything is inside me. I'm going to have to go in there and fix it. Not doing it on the outside by making out, I don't eat this, I don't drink that, but inside I'm still contemplating the senses and their sense objects. The Lord says, no, you have to renounce it on the real, like, what does it says? It says, by experiencing a higher taste, one can actually throw all these things into the abyss. You're not interested in the taste that comes from the most tasteful food, because the taste of God is much sweeter. By experiencing a higher taste, such a person will throw away. And when I say throw away, I don't mean you can't do without these senses and the sense objects. It's just that you redeem, you reclaim yourself, that, you know what? I'm not going to let these senses hold me hostage anymore within this house, this home, this temple, this body called a temple. I'm being put in the cellar. I've been tied up. And these senses, sense objects, and all these energies have taken over the manner. And so I no longer seem like I'm deciding what I like to smell, eat, taste, or look at. My mind is deciding those things for me. It has taken over a long time ago, says Krishna. So when you decide to take back your mind, guess what your mind says? It say, what? Oh, go for me about you want to take over. When I was walking down the road with you the other day and you tell me, say, you like that bump on that lady. I'm going to show you the thing and show you the thing look good. You never turn around and tell me, say, you're not interested anymore. But now you're telling me, say, you're not interested in the little bits and pieces of information I've been bringing to your eyes, your ears, the perfume on the woman's, all the foods and all that. Now you want to say you want control again? Krishna says, yes. Tell your mind yes, and start raging war on this territory. That's why you need to know this territory. Until you rage war on this territory, you'll always be enslaved by it. You'll be like tied up in this being called the body, the temple, and you're not meant to be in control. You're meant to surrender to the higher self. Once you surrender to your higher self, you're no longer being dragged like a dog and have these nooses of the gunas dragging you. And it's not like a wise man don't get dragged into the mode of passion, into the mode of ignorance. Nobody's being holier than thou here. All we're saying is that knowledge is power and ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is death. This map, this territory is the territory. And all your activities are performed in it. Because of this territory, there is a thing called karma, because time is also involved in this territory, mapping everything that's been done. You are moving in this territory with the cause and effect and loads of different astringent energies and forces of nature all around you. And sometimes people try to understand, oh, he's talking about nature again. Yeah, missing nature. When I go out in the jungle, I went to Africa and I go in my guy, me and the children went to the park and I saw nature. No. I needed to know nature is not just out there in the garden and in the park. All of that nature that makes up the universe is within you. And all around you, the things that's making you see that you can see the TV and that you can see me talking right now, without nature, that's not possible. Nature's not just out there in the garden and in the green, green grass of home. Nature is in your front room. Nature is in your bedroom. There is ether, there is air, there is fire, there is water, and there is earth. And it's out there in the jungle as well, but it's in your front room. It's in your nose hole. It's in your stomach, your bowels, your brain. It's in your kitchen. It's in your bin with all the things you're going to chuck out for the bin man come take it. Nature is everywhere, all around you, permeating absolutely everything. And when we study this map, it's to bring your awareness that all these forces made by the Most High are embracing you at every single moment of your existence. The day you were born, your heart started beating. It has not stopped beating all now. And you ain't got nothing to do with that. But it has not stopped once. And if it does, you will start having problems. But the day it stops beating, that's the day you die. How come something that important and someone can live for 100 years and they were not monitoring that? And that's just the heartbeat. What to speak of the spleen, what to speak of the kidneys, what to speak of the brain and the multi-billions of neurons performing functions every minute and every moment of your existence. You're truly not in control. We're in an entrapment of energies, in a field where there's a territory with, when you do something, unless you do it with the right intention, that intention has been recorded. There's like an algorithm, a divine, organic algorithm monitoring absolutely everything. And that's what they call the super soul. The super soul's not just in my heart. The super soul's in every single atom and in between the spaces of each atom. There is no space that exists where the Most High in his form as super consciousness is existing. He's everywhere in that way. And in that way, that's finally how you come to it. Because in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, it mentions all these 25 elements and the 26th one being time. But then it brings about the most important factor of it all, you, the soul, and the Most High, the super soul, the Purusha, the supreme personality, the supreme, the one without a second. These are the main players within this territory of all this matter. They are inferior to you. Let me slow it down. And then I'm done. The three gunas are modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. They are inferior to you, even though they are aspects of God. They are inferior to you because they play a role on behalf of the Most High. He delegated them to play a role to help you to become free. Okay. The sense objects, your eyes, your ears, your nose, the sound sense objects, touch, form, taste, and smell are inferior to you, the soul. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your skin, your touch, these are organs. They are inferior to you, the soul. Your mind is inferior to you, the soul. All the things that's manifest in this territory are inferior to you, the spirit soul. But we're not behaving like that. Like I said, we make them plunder us The soul is entrapped, fettered, entangled, doesn't know what it is, if it's the mind, if it's the senses, it doesn't know. It's lost in this whole quagmire of this mix-up of the different things that manifest here in this world, in this territory we're talking about. So hear this. In the divine world, there are no senses and sense objects and all this stuff. It's all divine. There's no super soul. There's no 25 elements. There's no Samkhya. There's no gunas, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Why? Because it is all divine. This is a world of manifestation. That is a world of the unmanifest. This is a world of physicality. That is a world of spirituality. We don't have a physical body in that world. And so that's why this studies of these Samkhya elements and how they interact with you, how they block you, how they imprison you, how they enslave you, keep you trapped in this samsara, which is the continuous recycle of birth and death. And I can tell you with hands on heart, that is the pain I feel for myself and all my brothers and sisters, spirit souls out there, running around the world from birth to death, both birth, old age, disease, death, birth, old age, disease, death. And guess what? There is no shortage of more time to give you birth, old age, disease, and death, and another life, and another life, and another life. There's no shortage of it. You can call it a holographic or hologramic experience as you like. Something like that, because God not short or nothing. He can give you, in my Father's house of many mansions, he can give you more time, unlimited time, and it fits right into the seed of an apple. And it's unlimited time. There's nothing impossible for him. So for you, he will give you unlimited time for you to regain and reclaim your love for him. Know that he will do whatever it takes. And if it means to give you life and more life and more life and come again, sorry, no, you need to come again because you are not the false ego. No, come again. You spend the whole life of that life being egotistic. Sorry, you spend the whole life just to put on makeup and costume and all of these things. Oh, my wife and my kids and my children and my grandchildren. You thought it was about that. Sorry, come again. Wasn't the one. So you use your senses to go to work and help your kids and give them a better opportunity than you did in the slavery had us for 400 years, and now you're making headway. Sorry, that's not what you're here for. Come again. And so that Groundhog's Day, they call samsara. Repeated birth and death until you get it right. And this map is the key for you to know that I'm not this physical body, I'm not this physical mind, nor these senses, nor do I belong to these sense objects, nor am I, even though right now I am enslaved by them, I'm not going to make them continue to enslave me. I'm going to start reversing this, just like we're reversing diabetes. Stop the hard food and the dumpling and all the things them work, starchy food and cause a problem. You can't see again. So you have to reverse this. And so that's what this map is here to show you how you can reverse, what it is you have to work on. And don't let people tell you that you're not supposed to know. That all you need to do is wake up every day, eat food, go to your bed, work hard, put money in your bank account, get a better car, better house, and just make sure you have a nice girl and you're good. No, you're going to come here again in another body, maybe a better one, maybe a better situation, no doubt, but the job's still not done, I'm afraid. You are a divine being having a material experience, and that's not even what you're meant to have. You're meant to be a divine being having a divine experience, but you will never reclaim that as long as you claim these things to be your things. What we've spoken about today is a lot, but it's key. It's the whole thing. There's a lot. You could talk about this for years, but it's key. And I'm indebted. I'm grateful that you took the time. I'm grateful. And I know that God, the Most High, Krishna, is grateful also. Even God is grateful because he himself not coming down to come tell your Zoom attendees all these things. And he says it in the Bhagavad Gita that he's grateful. He says this in chapter 18, he who teach this science to my devotees, of him there's not one more there ever will be. So he's grateful. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for making the effort to try to get so many people to get this, you know? Yeah. I'm moved. Thank you.
Like I said, it's been a beautiful journey over these last 3 months, associating with you all and getting to this point where I can share this type of knowledge. And you all are online. I've seen some of you that's been here from the very beginning. You stayed loyal, you stayed, you're honoring yourselves, you're honoring your higher selves, and it's a beauty to see that, we can do service and bring you this knowledge and you can appreciate and take the little that you understand from it and grow and expand. I'm so moved at this moment. It's like it's almost stable, like it's the end of this cycle. And the reason why I'm bringing an end to it is the pranayama was very much putting in the cornerstone of where it all starts. Pranayama is very much, getting to grips with a divine aspect of yourself without having any form of language barrier. It's the cornerstone of being. When they say in the Bible, God breathed into man life, it's to understand that correlation between the finer essence of Prakriti, which is prana, and the finer essence of Purusha, and how can prana assist Purusha in reaching back to Godhead. It starts with your pranayama, it starts with your breathing. And then from your breathing, you go up to, for instance, you get this pranayamic aspect right in your life. You do the breath of life meditation, you get into that zone. Then you pray, then you meditate, then you expand, then you open up. You're doing it previous to that, it's almost like you're dry. It's almost like you're desperately yearning for God to hear you. You kind of feel like this. It's an external space that you got to put your mind to. Dear God, I hope you can hear me. I hope that you can feel the power of my prayer. And you have to build up, you have to work up this whole thing. Rather, if you start with prana, you get that connectivity in the inner being with the inner being, with the inner witness. You get that connectivity solid. Then you pray, then you meditate, then you expand. So this, I really do hope that everyone on board has really adhered to the benefits of prana and can take this and use it as their cornerstone. So the next level, the next series that we're going to be doing is going to be concentrating now more on meditation, on prayer, on these aspects of additional. When you have dinner, you don't just eat rice. There's rice, there's vegetables, there's different things on the plate that makes the plate colorful and tasteful. Such should be your spiritual life. It shouldn't be just one thing. It should be many things. It should be things that bring different colors, different tastes, and different, what's the word that I'm looking for? Different experiences, and heightening that taste and that experience. So right now, we've just touched with the pranayama a process of cleansing of being. When we go into meditation now, we can go deeper into the cleansing of the heart and the mind of the Samkhyas. Start to get rid of the attachment to the physical world through meditation. Start to attach to an inner yearning to connect to the inner witness. To develop an inner taste, to change that lust to love, to change, to change your anchors, develop your anchors to a more spiritual taste. And this is the route home. This is the route out of this mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's been a beautiful, beautiful experience with you all. Okay. On the website from tomorrow morning, there will be a series of recordings which are beautifully organized. Actually, let's see if I can just pull it up quickly. And this is going to be really wonderful for all of you to
access. Yeah, because please. I heard a little bit of. Is it the meditation music and stuff? I listened to them. They're really beautiful. I didn't listen to them with headphones. I listened to them on the WhatsApp, but then you'd asked me to wear headphones, and I was blown away. It's really beautiful. Really, really beautiful.
So,
you said something, I remember something in the temple. They said, when you decide to do exactly what you just described, to start to pay more attention to when you're in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, to pay attention, to just be more attentive. That's what state of meditation is. After a while, you'll always be in a state of meditation because you'll always be attentive. Always. Like always.
So tomorrow, when you all can go to the site, there's going to be some wonderful stuff for you to aid you in your meditations from here on in. This is a beautiful album that's been put together. It's called Reformation. It's 7 tracks, and these are 7 beautiful bits of music that all align with your chakras, basically. And it will give you a sense of grounding in listening to this stuff. A beautiful piece of work. This you can use for silent meditation. This can use in the background of your breathing meditations when you take on the breathing on your own. Also, there is a recording that is going to be available with me just doing the breathing exercises with some beautiful music that you can download for free. That is definitely a present to you all. But these particular recordings, they are absolutely divine for doing it in your own space and in your own time. Once you've gotten into the rhythm of just doing it, and you just want silence and you just want something beautiful playing. The last track on this album, Dr. Mark himself is chanting. He's chanting the Om mantra so beautifully, so subtly, and you can hear and feel the vibration. It just gives you a nice, beautiful alignment. The second one here is Affirmations. Now, before we spoke about if you're on a low vibration, it's very hard for affirmations to actually stick into your consciousness. This set of recordings has been done scientifically through the NLP practices that me and Dr. Mark know very well on how to get affirmations to stick. This is also again, most of the times when you go into YouTube and you're trying to find something that sits with your vibration, the tone, whether it's a European tone or an American tone or something, there's something that doesn't quite make you click or catch on. This being in the native tongue, you're gonna feel a certain vibration. You're gonna feel a certain connection. The affirmations, they're also done both by masculine and feminine. Letitia done a wonderful job in doing the feminine part. So you're gonna feel it clinging and adapting to your both. Both masculine and feminine energies are in everyone, and to prompt these energies into right-mindedness. Again, there's another balance that's at play. These affirmations are absolutely great for bringing in real change on a daily basis for listening and inspiring yourself to stick into a result. These affirmations also sink deep within the subconscious. They're done in a way. There's 2 recordings. One of them is loud so you can hear the affirmations, and the second one is quiet. So the affirmations are quietly buried in the music, but both of them are done in such a profound way that you can hear, commands to the subconscious, that the mind can only pay attention to one thing at a time. So if there's a bombardment of information to instruct, so your mind could be trying to pay attention to one thing, and because you're trying to pay attention to one thing, you might say, I am great. So you hear this command saying, I am great, but then your mind says, no, you're not. So straight away you're fighting with the affirmation. But while you're sitting there fighting, there's a million other affirmations that are going in. They're going in, and you actually feel a richness in your being. Like, you can't fight it. You feel this overwhelming.
And go into trance. You go into trance. They taught us that. They taught us that in NLP, if the mind is hearing too many commands at the same time, and they've done that, if you remember, we learned in Oxford. We was in Oxford with Dr. George S. Phillips, and they made 2 people, God Almighty, one experience. One person on each ears read a story to you. complete different stories. And you have to close your eyes and listen to both of them and see which one you remember. After they ask you what was the stories about, you're talking bits and pieces from both the stories, but you don't know one story from the other. And your mind goes into a state of trance. And that's what happened with these affirmations. I think it's great. And you know, the first one, the Reformations, where you're playing those tracks, is also, if someone plays them in their house, you're creating a mode of goodness. You can create, the modes are there for you to manipulate.
Absolutely.
The modes are there for you to manipulate. You know, God made man, God made the Sabbath for man, not man for the Sabbath. God made the modes for man, not man for the modes. So if I feel myself in a mode of ignorance or passion and I need to be in the mode of goodness, I can play those musics. I can get on the piano and play something very sattvic. I can grab my beads and start chanting, and the ignorance will go. I can go to the gym and just exercise it out, go to the sauna and go in a more state of relaxation and hence sattvic. We have to learn to manipulate these modes. Now we know what they are. We can't be ignorant and stay ignorant and don't be responsible. Now we know what they are. So the music you're talking about, they can play it in the house. And the whole house becomes sattvic. Even if you're not breathing, even if you're not meditating, it'll put you in a state of sattva. Somebody does have an argument, put it on and see if it don't change the vibes, you know?
Which brings me to the next recording, which is solely Dr. Mark. I done the music and put together the recording. And Dr. Mark, while he was out here in Portugal, we actually recorded a mantra album. This album here is called Obstacle Removal. It's done by Dr. Mark in Sanskrit, a very powerful Ganesh prayer, which is a really powerful invocation of energies that are directly responsible for obstacles in your perceived consciousness. Mm-hmm. Do you wanna? I'll keep it really short because it's another thing. I want to say as well, you know, Tarun, I really, you have no idea how much I appreciate what you're doing. I don't think you do realize. We're very close. And you know, when people are close, sometimes we take each other for granted, you know, and we don't realize when somebody said they appreciate something, we kind of say, yeah, bro, I hear you, I feel you. I really want to put it out there to you again, you know. And after the Zoom, I'll call you and express it again. But I want to say openly, I really appreciate what you've done. Ganesh is responsible for problems. He's a problem energy, deity. And so to avoid having issues, to have those problems removed, you call on Ganesh. And they say the way you do that, out of respect, you do that first. Because if you want to do something important, you don't start do the thing and then ask for help. You ask for help that when you're going to do the thing, you don't make mistakes. So before I pray to the Most High, I'll ask Ganesh to make sure that while I'm chanting the mantras, my mind will be still, that everything's in order. Om Ganananta Ganapating Avamahe Kaving Kavinamu Pavashravashtamam Jesharajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anaha Shanvanuti Bisida Sadanam Om Ganapataye Nam. Please help me, dear Lord, to make my endeavors bear fruit. So Ganesh is the force that causes obstacles, and so Ganesh is the force that helps to remove them. And so, I'm just saying, those of you who have money problem, try it and see. Proof of the pudding's in the eating. Go into your breathing exercise, and when you're done, finish your breathing exercise, like Tarun said. He said it. After you finish your breathing, you should be aligned. You should be in a state of yoga. Yoga means union, communion. When you go into church and say you take communion, but they're not communion there really, because everybody I think about fried chicken. But I'm telling you that when you go into a state of yoga, you're in a state of union and communion with the Most High, because He's inside you. He's not in church. The Lord is in you. So when you go in you and align yourself, you're in alignment with the Most High. And so I heard Tarun say that when you do that by breathing, then after that, you can actually start to apply yourself to other things like prayer, like writing your book, like, planning how you're going to do your day, because you're doing it from a divine place, from a place of soul, not from a place of mind or heart. That comes
after you go to soul, mind, and heart will follow. And Ganesh will make sure, say, all the bad-mindedness around you and all the misgivings even within yourself, because sometimes we are our own enemy. We have all kind of anxiety, we think all kind of rubbish, and we are wrong. We are deluded. Many times we have delusions. So Ganesh is the Lord within us that helps us to remove those delusions. Madam, amen.
Amen. And finally, quickly before we go into the breathing, this last one that I want to tell you about, cleansing and healing, is a very, very, very powerful. This is a full 45-minute healing session, which I've conducted. It's a very deep hypnosis program. You just need headphones. You sit down, you just find yourself a nice quiet space. You listen to this from beginning to end, and you will feel an absolute transformation in the moment that is literally lasting. This is really good for tapping into deep-rooted trauma, mental disorders. It is such a profound piece of work, this thing that I've created, cleansing and healing. It's literally taken people out of madhouse. It's literally stopped people from committing suicide. This is absolutely powerful. These recordings here that I've aligned for you are great tools for assisting the inner being to align with the greater you, to get rid of the excess baggage, the excess trauma that's been accumulated over the years that attaches you to bad thinking, bad habits, bad doubt. Such powerful stuff. They will be all available online in the morning on the website. And this is something I definitely all want you to really investigate and look. And this stuff will help you tie yourself over between now and the next sessions that we start. And it will really enrich in your life. It's a great way to bring closure to this stuff, so you can have something to hang on to that is not only just acts as memorabilia, but you've taken away something that's really powerful in terms of tools, assisting aids that's going to really bring about deep internal change on a subconscious level.
Mm-hmm. Someone was just asking if they're downloadable or they're just CDs. In what format are they given? So they're up there for purchase when they will be downloadable straight to your website, straight to your email address. All of them will come in digital formats of high quality WAV files, 16-bit, 44 kilohertz. They're not MP3s. They are big, proper WAV files that they're rich in the content of. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do the 528s?
Yes.
You should probably explain, because you see, cleansing and healing, a lot of issues, medically speaking, now mental health issues. Cleansing and healing is not just physical, cleaning your bladder, cleaning your liver, cleaning your colon. It's cleansing and healing is also for people who suffer with self-hate.
Yeah,
and would never, because of delusions, would never accept how much there's self-hate within any of us, even for me. It's one of those things that you can't see the matter in your own eyes. Somebody else don't want to show you because you think they're criticizing you. But self-hate is one of our biggest enemies. One of our biggest enemies is self-hate. Because until you realize what you truly are, you can't really have true love. You will say, I don't like my eyes, I don't like my face, I don't like my skin, it's too dark. I don't like my skin, it's too light. And you're getting carried away with the things that you're not, but you don't like, and so you have self-hate. Self-hate is impossible for the soul. Self-hate is impossible for the soul, because the soul is God. It's the very what you call whether it's infinitesimal, digital, or just a dot, like on a pixel on God's screen, is a divine spark that's divisible. It is if it may be insignificant in size, but it is filled with Godness. and godliness. It is not destructible. As Krishna says, for the soul is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does it ever come to cease to be, nor, is primeval. He says it's primeval, it's unending. It cannot be slain. Cannot be slain when the body is slain. That tells you that what you are is something that you need to, because nobody's telling us that. They're telling us that you're a black man, you're a Greek man, you're a white man, you're a brown man. And so we have self-hate because we don't know what we are. We believe what people tell us. You're short, you're fat, you're ugly, you're pretty. And we have all these things that we've made claims on ourselves of things we're not, and hate that. And that hate has gone so deep that almost like it's soul deep, but it's impossible. It's not soul deep. So these type of sounds, a 528 frequency, which is a frequency that the sun shines, and that the flowers and the vegetation emanates 528 frequency. And when you use music, 528 frequency is C major, the central key in all instruments, the central key in music, in tones, in vibrations, middle C. That's why they call it middle C. There's no middle G. There's no middle D. There's no middle F sharp. There's middle C, known throughout music. The whole kingdom of music acknowledges middle C as the sun of the solar system of sounds. Middle C is that. And that's 528. And so when music's written in 528, it inspires and surcharges the heart chakra. Therefore, you feel love. And so some of these cleansing and healing, when you use words like cleansing and healing, it will deal with the self-hate. And you won't understand why. Our teacher in psychotherapy, we learned in Oxford from Dr. George Phillips, and possibly one day we can get him to come on one of these Zooms because he's a very powerful teacher. And he said this, he gave this axiom, he gave this affirmation: I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, because we think we like ourselves until we start saying it. And we start seeing things change. That, I don't like how she talked to me, because I've been having her talk to me like that for like 100 years, how long I've been in this relationship, and she talks to me like that, and I take it. But when I've been saying I like myself, what to speak of if you realize your spirit soul, even though it's a humble status, the divine spark in you, but at the same time, it will never let that status demoralize you. You understand me? It will make you always stand up and say, no, I won't let you treat me like this. And it will make you start to come out and say, I'm worth more. And so these healing devices through music and sound vibration, they will start to heal you and you won't know. George H. Phillips says, when you go to sleep, when you listen to these sound vibrations, we're not trying to make up with magicians. And by the time you turn off the CD, you start do head spins and start king pupalik and back flick and nothing. But he says, when you do the work on self by listening to these sound vibrations and they change the filters in your perception, he says, when you go to sleep, your unconscious minds make those adjustments. And for sure, when you wake up, you're not seeing exactly the same way as you did yesterday. And I need you to know that. We went all the way to Oxford to learn that. When you go to sleep, your body and your mind, your psyche does a whole heap of shifting. And when we just looked at all of that map of the territory, that's what it's doing when you sleep, whether you like it, whether you know it or not, it's shifting in that territory. What do I mean? It can only shift within the territory. That's all you have is ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Goodness, passion, ignorance. Your senses, the sense objects, the five, knowledge acquiring one, physical one, and so forth. That's all you got. So really, when you do a cleansing, you wake up to a better fire, a better water, a better ether, a better earth. You have more clarity. You're resonating better with these frequencies, with these energies around you. You don't feel so miserable. You know what I mean? Water tastes better. Sound sounds better. Taste, your taste buds tasting it better. Your gastric system is feeling far better in digestive, and you feel more full in satisfaction. This is what happens when you get these cleansing. It really is beyond prayer. Because you can pray for something, but your heart's still not in the right place. But when sound vibration hits you, it can make you cry, it can make you laugh, and it's not you plan it, it's planning for you. So yeah, I think what you've done is remarkable, and they should get them. There's one for sleep as well, for the insomnia, Nidra Devi will help on the sleep. And for money, I think there's one for Ganesh and money, and it's remarkable. I think you've done well. You've done really you really outdone yourself now, mate. You really outdone yourself.
Thank you so much. It has been. I know time is pushing, but it's these are very impertinent things that I really did want you all to understand. And I know a lot of us are gonna miss these Sunday sessions, and a part of us is gonna feel that missing. What we're going to do to replace that. Well, these tools are designed not only just to help you on a Sunday, but to help you every day, and to help you even on a deeper level. Like those who can hear will hear. They will realize the beauty and the power in what's being presented here, to elevate your whole perception of existence, to find your sweet spot in life. So again, like I said, they'll be available in the morning on the website. I'm just literally finishing all the uploads now. There's going to be a few more. The one with Nidra Dave, the one with the breathing, and then I will make it all. This is something that I said. What's the best way to wrap up the course and give you all something really nourishing to get your teeth into, and to help you develop that lobe, that spiritual taste, that spiritually inclined way. Real powerful tools, not just hearsay, making rubbish and nonsense. We're going too far if we even bother with them things. You understand? So this is something that we've accumulated a lot of knowledge over the years, and trying to break it down into bite-sized chunks for everybody else to appreciate. There's a concept of not casting pearls to swine, but what we've done over the last 3 months, all this, we've taken time in making sure that we've introduced the right knowledge at the right time, so it doesn't cause distortion in your mind. It adds more to the beauty of what you learned from the first place. It's like another chapter. It all makes sense. There's a sequence. There's a lot of order of how the whole has come together. It's not just that you've been thrown in the deep end and expected to just follow. You've got real substance. You've got real food outside of the stuff that is there. I do suggest that you keep watching the replays of the knowledge that's being given. Just keep watching the repeats of the shows. They're up on YouTube. They're up on the site. Get more into the taste. Just refresh your knowledge. Just refresh, because every time you hear something, you're going to hear something new in it. You're going to hear something that you never heard before. When you read the book for a first time, you're going to only have that first time level of understanding. You read the book 10 times, you're going to have a different type of understanding of the book. So really dig into, the nourishment that is here, the food that is here. Get solid in that, in your new baseline state. Get solid in your upliftment. So when we come to the new segment of meditation, you're fixed. You're because again, to develop the aptitude and the discipline just to breathe right, much less meditate. It's two different worlds. But once you master that discipline, because like even Krishna said, you get the breathing right, you can control the mind, you can control the senses, you can control your own willpower now. And with controlling your own willpower, when you say you're going to do something, you will do it. When you understand, so these all build up from small little disciplines. And the best place to start is with pranayama. Now we've placed that cornerstone, and we don't want to spend another 6 months just on pranayama. We'll be doing pranayama exercises as well in the future, but we're now expanding. We're now putting different substances on the plate. We are bringing the salad now. We are bringing the fruit punch. We are bringing the the different things that's going to make the spiritual life more tastier.
Dumpling.
You understand? So, it's been wonderful. So, without any further ado, let us dive into our last session of breathing. I know it's been a really